BTK seemed uncatchable. Everyone wondered who he was, where he was, until just a few months ago, when a most unlikely man who'd lived among them all along, Dennis Rader, was arrested.
I am BTK. Yeah. I'm the guy they're after, 100%.
This interview was conducted by a Harvard-trained forensic psychologist, Robert Mendoza. He was hired by the defense team to assess Rader's sanity.
I got this fantasy. I started working out this fantasy in my mind, and once that person became a fantasy, I could just loop it over. I could lay in bed at night thinking about this person, the events, and how it's going to happen, and it became a real, almost like a picture show. You know, I wanted to go ahead and produce it, and direct it, and go through with it, no matter what the costs were, the consequences. It was going to happen one way or another.
No one knows for sure why Rader had to kill to fulfill those fantasies. In this interview with the psychologist, Rader dismisses each victim as a project. He says he'd begin by stalking.
Stalking stage is when you start learning more about your victims, potential victims. Went to the library, I looked up their names, that address, cross-referenced, and called them a couple of times. Drove by there whenever I could.
And each time he struck, Rader said he was armed with what he calls his hit kit.
It contained what? Plastic bags, rope, tape, knife, gun. All those wouldn't be in the kit, they'd be where I could have them in the house and gather them up.
Tools that would come to define the work of BTK. The victims were often discovered bound with tape or rope tied in unusual knots. In his jailhouse interview, Rader blamed his murder spree on that mysterious force he has always claimed was way beyond his control, Factor X.
Something that's, I used it, I actually think I'm maybe possessed with demons. I was dropping on my head when I was a kid. I talked to some theological Christian people, and some of those people are really strong. They actually think, well, the Bible says that there's demons within you or can come into you. That's the only thing I can figure out. I have, something drove me to do this. Normal people just don't do this.
You can't stop it.
I can't stop it. It's just, it controls me. It's like it's in the driver's seat.
10 innocent people murdered to satisfy the twisted needs of one selfish man.
And I think I've reached a point in my life, the kids were gone, not really bored, but kind of bored.
And something else. Rader knew a local lawyer was writing a book about him, or about BTK, that is. That didn't sit too well either with the man who had such an enormous appetite to draw attention to himself. Rader felt only he could do justice to his story.
Eventually, I was going to tell the story in my terms and not his terms. They already had the killings, and so that's factual. But they didn't know how I worked and moved around, the projects, the haunts, how I picked up the victims. They didn't know how that worked. I could just really stir the hornet nest up with the media by just showing them pictures and puzzles and playing a game with them.
So, in March 2004, Rader made contact.
What I call a haunt. As I call it. I had special appeal to it. I've been there, I started knowing the roads, I knew the people. I drive by, watch cars, people pull out of their homes, people go, wrote telephone numbers down, wrote addresses down. This is how it really started right here, is by haunts. That area, the Edgemore area, was my first big haunt.
In another admission that reveals Rader's depravity, he told the psychologist the thrill had little to do with the kill, or for that matter, with the victim herself.
And I don't think it was actually the person that I was after, I think it was the dream. I know that's not really nice to say about a person, but they were basically an object. They were just an object, that's all they were. I had more satisfaction building up to it and afterwards than I did the actual killing of the person. Mrs. Otero had woke up, and she actually said, have God have mercy on your soul. That's what she said. Put her down. Permanently.
This woman who probably knows now that she might be going to die, she is generous with you, asking God to have mercy on your soul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pretty generous thing. to tell
Somebody's
man
going to kill you.
that's killed and tortured her family and is about to do the same to her.
Trying to comfort them as much as I could.
To keep him quiet, or because you actually were worried about it?
Both. Well, I'll go, I'm a bad guy. I care for people, I have concerns for people. So, and I hadn't really crossed that path yet where I was going to kill the people yet, so I was still in concern mode.
Rader says now the whole experience left him quaking.
Well, I was really not a sexual high. I was just scared high. I was really nervous, sweating. I had sweat running off me all over the place, and I just, I had gloves on. I had rubber gloves, and they were just full of water, sweat. It was really, my clothes were just soaked with sweat. Very nervous. Not like a master criminal at all. This was my first time that I'd ever crossed that barrier.
You were nervous?
Extremely nervous, and all of a sudden, and I already cut the phone line, and it's funny because I left my knife, I left the cutters there. And I can't come back and get those later, and the door opened, so here I am, So do I just walk out the back door, they call the police, or I go for it, and I went for it.
Chilling details of his first killings and of his victim's final words.
Mrs. Otero had woke up, and she actually said, have God have mercy on your soul. I had all control completely. And then when the other room, I thought, do I just leave or what? They already know me, my face, so I went back and put a plastic bag over Mr. Otero's head and put a garment over his neck and pulled up on it, and that's when it really hit the fan, because they all could see what I was doing.
Rader describes first strangling the mother and father while their 9-year-old son and 11-year-old daughter watched. Although he is describing acts of unspeakable cruelty, his voice is utterly devoid of emotion, which makes listening to it that much harder.
Kids were watching this?
Yes, they were watching it. They were screaming and hollering.
Did you want to move them from the scene at all?
No. I had to get in control. It was really noisy. They were screaming and
The noise was bothering you?
yeah, the noise was bothering me. And I knew the mailman would be out there or somebody would be walking by, so I had to control it.
Why aren't there more?
Why aren't there more? Yeah, it seemed like as I got older, I started making, well, physically, I just wasn't up to it. I knew had to fight with somebody, it'd have to be an older person, because I'd be just winded or wouldn't be able to fight physically. I don't know. I think I was just starting to mellow out a little bit. Normal work day. Didn't have any suspicions. Although I've been really careful about watching people and actions and stuff. I'm usually pretty good about that.
He says he noticed nothing unusual, except maybe a moment when he overheard on his police radio the FBI was up to something in his town.
And I thought, well, maybe something's coming down. Shall I run? But where would I ran if they were after me? I just took a calculated guess that was something else and hoped for it.
Then at midday, the killer went home for lunch.
Drove home, and just as soon as I got started turning down, there's a frontage road. I saw this whole line of police cars. I thought, oh, that's not good. And it's just, they were right on me just that quick. I thought maybe it was a traffic stop or something. But as soon as one was behind me with the red lights and sirens, I knew that was it.
Is it safe to say that there are at least a few lucky people out there?
There's a lot of lucky people out there.
Who you didn't kill, that you had
Didn't either make it to the house, they come home, or for some reason I didn't go. There's a lot of lucky people out there, yes. There have been more, probably, if I would have succeeded. Yeah, well, you're almost guaranteed it.